God does have a plan for our personal finances. It's not as though He has a fixed plan that says, Phil, you're going to earn X dollars this year. Your investments are going to yield this return this year. It's a plan based on broad principles. And those principles we find within Scripture and church teaching. That plan has its foundation in what we would call stewardship, being what the Catechism calls a steward of providence. What does that mean? Well, we need to understand that God has a role when it comes to money, and that He has assigned us a role. And His role is explained in Scripture in a number of areas. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 14 is one of those, where He's described as the creator and ultimately the owner of all that exists. So that's God's role. Well, if God is the owner, then our role is something different. And again, Catechism 2404 describes for us that we are a steward. A steward is different than an owner. A steward is a manager. It's someone who the owner entrusts with resources to use for the good of the owner in a manner consistent with the will of the owner. And that's our calling. So being a steward of providence really encompasses a wide array of issues. One of the key things in terms of being a steward of providence is in terms of how well we live that out. So how well do we live out God's plan for our finances? And obviously He has a plan for every aspect of our life, and that includes our finances. What gets in our way, though, is that we have a fallen human nature. And just as in other areas of our life, we sometimes struggle and don't always do God's will. St. Paul wrote about that in his writings. He said, I don't understand my own actions. I do the very things I know I shouldn't do, and I don't do the very things I know I should. And that was St. Paul speaking. So we know that we're going to have those same struggles through life. So we don't always act in a manner consistent with the will of God, but ultimately that's what our call is. And when it comes to our plan for personal finances, it's to use the resources, use the gifts of time and talent and the monetary resources we have, the material resources we have, in ways that will be pleasing to God.